Okay, today's your bonus lesson. Viruses and vaccines. Let's get started. The definition or the criteria of a living thing, which is an organism, includes, has at least one cell. You guys are made up of about 37 trillion cells. A blue whale has more cells than you. Your dog has less cells than you. The most basic life forms on Earth are bacteria. Keyword is life form. They are made of one cell. When you wake up in the morning, you have bad breath, that's bacteria. The bacteria in your stomach, that's obviously I just said bacteria, those all have one cell each. If you ever had strep throat, that's bacteria, one cell each. Every organism is a single cell. These cells can replicate. Cells can generate their own energy. And the cells can grow. So obviously, if you don't have at least one cell, you can't make your own energy, can't grow, you can't replicate. So the key thing is you got to be made of cells. Viruses are not alive. So they are not organisms. A virus is considered a obligate parasite. Now, what does that mean? Well, to be obligated means to do something that you're forced to do. You may have woken up this morning and say, I don't want to go to school today, but you're obligated to come. I might have a meeting with someone today. I'm like, I don't want to go to this meeting, but I'm obligated to do it. A parasite is something that benefits itself by harming something else. Like a mosquito is a parasite, a tick is a parasite, a baby brother could be a parasite. Um, an obligate parasite just means it has to do this to survive. So they depend on a host to replicate. It's probably the same. So let's go over some of the anatomy of a virus. Hi. You okay? Okay, I'm going to draw two different viruses for you. So if you have multiple colors, get them out. Okay. This red outer layer is called a capsid, and it is made of protein. So viruses are encapsulated by a protein capsid. Inside the protein capsid is the viral DNA, or it could even be RNA. Outside the capsid is an envelope. And this envelope is made of lipid, the same stuff as your plasma membrane. And then on the surface of the envelope are little spikes, protein spikes. Now, I want to make you guys just very, very aware of something. Viruses are not alive. Therefore, they do not have a consciousness. They don't look to do things. This is just, they're kind of floating around as bad genetics. Now, next unit on unit 20 or unit 19, unit 7, I'm all over the place. Unit 7, you guys are going to be learning about evolution. There's going to be a tree of life. The tree of life shows every living thing that there's ever been, all the way back to the common ancestor, the first life forms that ever existed. Because viruses are not considered alive, they do not have a branch on the tree of life. You have a branch on the tree of life, a raccoon does, a dinosaur does, an otter, a blue whale, a fern tree, everything does. Viruses don't. And I heard it described to me like this when it comes to, well, where do viruses fit on this? They have protein, they have lipid, they have DNA. They are like the vines on the tree of life. They've been evolving alongside of us since there's been an us. And that's how they know how to sneak into our cells and infect them and make us sick or worse. They know how to get into our cells. They know they have the keys to get in. Um, they know all of our secrets. They're able to sneak past our defenses and get into the nucleus and do a lot of damage. Okay, these last things here, these are protein spikes. These are kind of like keys. And these keys can get into the locks of your cells. If they have the right key, then they can enter that cell, that particular cell. Different cells have different types of locks, different types of receptors. If you come in contact with a virus, say, that only affects turtles, let's say that you're holding your turtle and your turtle has turtle flu, that virus won't be able to get into your cells because you guys are mammals. Another example I can give you this real world is rabies. Rabies is a virus. I remember being in elementary school and we were in 3rd grade and we had to be on lockdown because there was a rabid raccoon running around the school. They didn't want kids out there getting bit by a rabid raccoon and contracting rabies. A raccoon is a mammal. A human is a mammal. That virus only works on mammals. But let's say that the raccoon bit Turtley, the class turtle. That turtle's a reptile. Rabies cannot infect a reptile because the spikes on the rabies virus are not compatible with the receptors on the cell of a reptile. That's just how it is. But there are some viruses that can go from one type of class of animal to another, like bird flu. Bird flu has very, very special spikes that can enter the cells of a bird and enter the cells of a mammal. Back in 2009, we had swine flu. It was a flu that they believe came from a pig. Well, a pig is a mammal. A human is a mammal. We shared a type of lock that the spikes could enter. And that was in 2009. You guys were probably little babies when that happened. All right. Now, this type of virus is a provirus, which means it has DNA. I will get to what type of virus has RNA later. But there is another type of virus I want to show you, and it infects bacteria. It looks like a spaceship. There's the viral DNA. Here's the head. Here's the neck. Here's the tail. And these little leg-like structures grasp the host cell. This is a very odd-looking virus. You, humans, don't have to worry about this one because this only affects bacteria. This is called a bacteriophage, or phage for short. Phage means to eat or to consume. Bacterial refers to prokaryotes and other bacteria. So this is only going to affect bacteria. You don't have to worry about that. All right. So let's get to the next topic. How do viruses infect cells? Viruses use the protein spikes to enter cells. Let me tell you how that works. Again, said it again. You guys have receptors on your cells. Your receptors are like a lock. If the virus has the key to that lock, it's getting in. And that's why I say viruses are like the vines on the tree of life, because they know us. They've evolved with us. They know how to get in. However, certain viruses are evolved to affect certain cells. There's a virus called, gosh, I'm blanking out here. Let me just give you a hypothetical. Let's say there's a virus out there. I can't think of the name right now. It infects your brain. Your brain is made of cells that differ from your respiratory system. So this virus that can infect your brain, like encephalitis, that's it. It cannot infect your lung. On the flip side, there are viruses that attack your lungs, like COVID. COVID attacks your lungs. It can't attack your digestive system. Those are different types of cells. And those little spikes, those keys, only work on specific types of cells. So viruses don't just affect you body-wide. They affect specific parts of your body, specific organs of your body. It might affect your brain, might affect your liver, might affect your stomach, might affect your lungs, and so on. They can also blend into a cell by using its envelope. Now, based on what we just wrote, what is the envelope made out of? A lipid. What is your plasma membrane made out of? A lipid. So here's how it works. Check this out. I'm going to try to draw this out like a little comic strip, okay? Here's the plasma membrane of a host cell. All right? Here is a virus. Okay, guys. Now watch this. You see how the virus got in? It used its envelope to blend in with your own plasma membrane to just invite itself to dinner. That's how they get in. And then they go after your nucleus, because what's in your nucleus? Your DNA, and that's the target. Viral DNA enters, or I shouldn't say, let me rephrase that. Viral DNA, yeah, I guess I'll say it, enters the nucleus and uses enzymes to make viral RNA, which is transcription, and viral protein. Now, these viral proteins lead to more viruses. So let's say John got COVID-19. He somehow one little unit of the virus got into his nose. It is going to go inside his cells. It will then get into his nucleus. It is then going to use RNA polymerase to make viral RNA. And then it's going to go through translation to make a bunch of viral proteins, which will make more viruses. And then John does a big old achoo, and a bunch of viruses come out. They were basically using him as a nursery. And all those, his body, his cells were being replicated inside. Now, here's the big worry, guys. I want you to notice that we got RNA, we're making viral RNA. Can you tell me what enzyme, I just said it, actually uses DNA to make RNA? What enzyme is that your nucleus has? Say it again. Your nucleus has RNA polymerase. Now listen to me. Viruses don't have that. So can viruses make their own RNA by themselves? No. That's why they need you. You have the RNA polymerase. They don't. So they need to get inside your nucleus. And then here's the scary part. Viruses have, or excuse me, do not have RNA polymerase. So that's why they need to get inside of our nuclei. But check this out. RNA polymerase does not proofread. So what do you risk have happening to viruses as they continue to infect and multiply, infect and multiply, infect and multiply, infect and multiply? What do you risk have happening? Bingo, mutation. This leads to mutation. If you guys were aware of your surroundings during COVID, you may have heard that there are many different versions of COVID. There was the Lambda version, the Delta version, the Epsilon version. They named it after Greek letters. I remember the first version of COVID, bad, not too bad. And then about 8 months later, Delta evolved. It was a mutated form of the original strand, and that one knocked people out cold. I mean, that one was a heavy hitter. And then another one was evolved from that, where it didn't make you that sick, but it was highly contagious, way more contagious than the Delta version. And so here's my fear, is that, and also with virologists, if you allow a virus to continue to infect and go from person to person to person to person to person to person, every time it replicates itself, you risk a mutation happening. And believe me, COVID mutated a lot. The flu mutates every year. I got my flu shot for 2023, 2024. That will be useless for 2024, 2025. The flu mutates every year. It's a completely different virus. Well, COVID mutated so much. What if there's a virus out there that we do have treatment for? We're not really worried about it. Yeah, you got to stay home from school, but you'll recover. But what if it mutates to a version that can kill us? That's what worries virologists. Like back about 10 years ago, there was a big outbreak of measles at schools, and like there was an outbreak of measles at Disneyland in California because people were visiting Disneyland and they weren't vaccinated for measles. You get a vaccine for measles when you're a baby. But there were parents that were saying, I don't want my child to have the measles vaccine. Like we considered measles eradicated, and now it's coming back because people aren't getting vaccinated. And what if the measles mutates into something that we can't handle? That's what I'm afraid of. One little T can become an A, and we're in big trouble. So the goal is to prevent it from spreading. If it can't spread, it can't replicate inside your cells. And if it can't replicate, then you don't have to worry about a proofreading mistake and a T becoming an A or a G becoming a C and changing it to something really bad. I mean, let's say that measles right now, it affects your skin, you get bumps all over the place. What if it evolves into super measles and it destroys your spinal cord or something? I don't know. But that's what a lot of movies have been based on. Like a virus mutates into something that we can't handle. But that's kind of based on real life, is where you let it linger around so long where it mutates into something that you just can't handle anymore. All right, let's continue. And let's go to bacteriophage cycles. You guys will see this on your mastering. Every AP Bio student has to know these. There's going to be 5 stages of the first cycle and 1 bonus stage for a second cycle. Okay, so try to keep up. Here we go. This is a bacteria. Let's see how well you guys were listening in the last 2 days. What is this circular loop of bacterial DNA called? Because with a P. You learned it when I taught you recombinant DNA. Sam? No, a phagocyte is a cell that eats up other cells. A plasmid. This is DNA. Okay, I'm not going to label it every time. This is going to be step 1 of the cycle I'm going to teach you. Here we go. This is a bacteriophage. And this first stage is called attachment. The bacteriophage lands on the surface of a cell. Okay. Viral DNA has been injected into the cell. This second step is called penetration. Step 3. You have little pieces of viruses that are now forming inside the host cell, but they're not all together yet. But the cell is basically acting like a virus nursery. This is going to be step 3, biosynthesis. Step 4, this is going to be the assembly or maturation. The viruses are growing up inside your cell. And then step 5, they break out. This is going to be step 5, release. Guys, this whole stage that we just mapped out, the 5 stages, this is called the lytic cycle. And I want to reiterate, I kept saying yours, but it's really not yours because this is happening with bacteria. And then the whole life cycle repeats itself. I'll give you a moment to catch up. Every AP Bio student is expected to know that. You'll definitely see it on your homework. Yes. Yeah, the bacteria does not survive the release. So viruses do destroy their host cell. So it's similar to yours, like with HIV. When HIV reproduces inside your cells, it destroys your cells, your immune cells specifically. I'll get to HIV later today. All right. Now, I told you there's going to be a bonus step here. After step 2, branch off over here to the side. All right. Here, the viral DNA is going to integrate with the host DNA. This stage is called integration. The viral DNA has now blended in with the host DNA. And guys, every time the host replicates, the virus replicates in it. So let's say that you have the cell split into 2. The viral DNA integrates and replicates. Then you go back to stage 3, where it can stay there forever. How long? To kind of relate this to you all, you may have heard of HPV. It's an STD, human papillomavirus. I can only assume that a lot of you, especially girls, have gotten the Gardasil vaccine, which tries to prevent infection from HPV. Most sexually active people have HPV, and it can lie dormant in your cells for years. Like, you could contract HPV when you're 19. It doesn't show up till you're 35. So what it did is it blended in with your DNA, and it just stays there, dormant, kind of biding its time. And then at some point, it just emerges, and it starts fulfilling its nature, which is breaking down your cells, mutating your DNA. Some forms of HPV can cause cancer in your cervix. The virus can mutate your DNA, and that can be really bad. So this is what some viruses actually do. They blend in with your DNA, and they can lay there for years and years and years and years and years. This is called the lysogenic cycle. So the lytic cycle is more immediate. The lysogenic cycle can go on for years and years. It can just stay there. That orange DNA that I have is viral DNA. If you didn't know that, it blends in with the host DNA. Okay. Still have a lot to get to here. I see a lot of you guys are writing furiously, trying to keep up. I appreciate that. Gonna keep going. When it comes to the lytic cycle, the virus replicates itself. When it comes to the lysogenic cycle, the viral DNA integrates with host DNA. Whenever the cell replicates, the virus DNA replicates with it. So, ladies, you're the ones with the cervix. Let's say you contract HPV. You contract it when you're 19. Over the course of however many years, it's in your cells, and whenever your cells replicate, the virus replicates too. So you don't just have one cell that has HPV. You'll probably have millions. And when you girls get older, you're going to have to get something called a pap smear if you're not getting one already. It's a yearly test that checks, make sure your cervix is healthy and okay. They scrape a little bit of cells off of it. They look at the cells under a microscope, and the doctor just checks, make sure the cells are good, or if they're showing signs of any kind of mutation that could maybe lead to cancer. Yeah. No, typically not. Now, guys get HPV too, but do guys have a cervix? No. So guys can actually give it to girls, and the guys don't know they have it because they don't have a cervix. The girl gets it. She gets her pap smear, and the doctor says, "Oh, your pap smear came back irregular." You're like, "How did that happen?" You know, That's where girls get it from, guys. That's why guys also are starting to get the Gardasil vaccine too. Okay, moving on. The types of cells a virus can infect depends on what the protein spikes are capable of entering. So as I said earlier, for example, the rabies virus cannot infect non-mammals. It only affects us. Humans can get rabies. Dogs can get rabies. Raccoons, possums, wolves. There's an old Disney movie that made people cry. You may have heard of it. Old Yeller. You know, anybody ever heard that movie? Adley, you have? This kid finds his dog, and the little boy and the dog becomes best friends, and this wolf shows up in the yard, and the dog protects the boy by fighting out the wolf, but the wolf bit the dog, and the dog now has rabies, and the boy has to shoot his own dog. It's very sad. This is a Disney movie. So, those movies where they have pets and the pet eventually dies, it all started with Old Yeller. It wasn't like those, Marley and Me. No, Marley and Me is the 21st century version of Old Yeller. That was the first one. Also, different topic. Let's get to retroviruses now. I'm running low on time, trying to get all this out to you guys. These are viruses that have RNA instead of DNA. These types of viruses are considered special. They reverse transcribe. New word, everybody. Reverse transcribe RNA to DNA. Now, here's how proviruses work, everyone. A provirus goes from viral DNA to viral RNA to viral protein. Now, you all should know this. What process lets you go from DNA to RNA? What is that called? Transcription. What lets you go from RNA to protein? Now, let's make something abundantly clear. Can the virus do this on its own? No, that's why it needs you. It needs your enzymes because it doesn't have them. Viruses cannot replicate without a host because they don't have polymerase. You do. Here's how a retrovirus works, everyone. You got viral RNA. Viral DNA. Back to viral RNA. Then you get viral proteins. You might be thinking, Mr. Thorson, what's the purpose of going from RNA to DNA to RNA again? That's like going from Thorson's room to Toddy's room back to Thorson's room. Why do that? Here's why. Because once you have viral DNA, you can make RNA and you have a higher quantity. You can make a lot more of it if it's coming from DNA. That's why you do it. You start out with one copy of viral RNA. You turn that into DNA. And then now that you have DNA, you can make a ton of RNA, which means a ton of protein. Now, this enzyme is going to be called reverse transcriptase. It's an enzyme. This is provided by the virus. This is the one enzyme they do have. Your cells do not have reverse transcriptase, but the virus does. The retrovirus does. And then you use RNA polymerase here. And bada bing, bada boom, this virus makes more of itself. Give you guys a moment to catch up. We have about 11 minutes left. Okay, while you're writing this down, do any of you, I know maybe today's the first day you've ever heard of a retrovirus, and that's fair. But can you think of a really famous virus that's out there? It became very well known in the 80s. Easy E from the rap group NWA. You guys may have seen the movie Straight Outta Compton. He died of this virus, kind of. Freddie Mercury from the band Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. We Are the Champions. That's that band. The lead singer, he died of HIV. If you ever saw Forrest Gump, that's my Jenny. Jenny died of this disease. What am I looking for? Not Ebola. Yeah. HIV, which causes AIDS. HIV is a retrovirus, and you need to know about that. All right. HIV is the human immunodeficiency virus. It is a retrovirus. It destroys the host immune cells. So when you get HIV, it destroys your T cells, which are like the commanders of your immune system. Without your T cells, you don't have an immune system. And when you die of HIV, technically, you die of a disease that you could have easily fought if you had an immune system. You die of things like the flu, pneumonia, a cold. Your immune system would normally be able to just knock that out. But when you have HIV, you don't have an immune system. And when you don't have an immune system, it leads to AIDS. AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This was very scary back in the 80s when it was starting to emerge, but it's the year 2024. When you have HIV, it is no longer a death sentence. You can live with HIV, but we have drugs and medicine that can help keep you alive. You will always test positive for HIV for the rest of your life because it blends in with your DNA. It's part of you. But we have drugs and things. It's called a cocktail. It's like a mixture of different drugs and medicines that can help keep you alive. But you have to inform any potential sexual partner, hey, I have HIV, because that is sexually transmitted. And I think there was someone who was intentionally having unprotected sex with a bunch of people, and she knew she had HIV. She was just like causing mayhem. And I think that's illegal. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I think that's a crime where you intentionally go to spread a disease to people willy-nilly. All right. Now, HIV doesn't have a vaccine because it's highly mutagenic. Retroviruses mutate often. Because reverse transcriptase and RNA polymerase don't proofread. Only DNA polymerase does that. So if you don't proofread the nucleotides, it can mutate. We don't have a vaccine for HIV. We can't really do that for retroviruses because they mutate so much. You can't predict it. All right. I know we're writing fast. I'm on my last page here. All right. Changing gears here. What do you call a worldwide outbreak of a virus? You guys just lived through this. A pandemic. Okay. A pandemic is considered a worldwide outbreak. In Latin, pan means all. All of it, everybody, the whole world. An epidemic is an outbreak in an area, but a pandemic is worldwide. And some examples would be the 1918 Spanish flu, the 2009 swine flu, and then something you'll be telling your kids about, the 2019 through 21 COVID-19. Now, why do they call it COVID-19, by the way? It emerged in 2019. I remember hearing skeptics of COVID-19 saying, this is a fake virus. It's the 19th version of COVID. Oh my God. No, it's not. It's called COVID-19 because it emerged in 2019. And by the way, COVID-19 is a coronavirus. Let me tell you how they got that name. Look up here. When you look at a virus, especially coronaviruses, they have a lot of spikes, and it looks like the spikes on the crown of a king. And what's the Spanish word for crown? Corona. That's how they got its name. All those little spikes kind of resemble a crown. All right, moving on. Let's see. How to prevent infection. What's the number one invention that we've created? I view it as a top 5 scientific invention of all time. A vaccine. Vaccinations. A vaccine is a combination of inactive viral components meant to teach, for lack of a better word, the immune system how to fight the virus. Vaccines are specific for the virus that they're made for. Can you get a flu vaccine and not get COVID-19? No, the flu vaccine is meant for the flu. COVID vaccine is meant for COVID. Chickenpox vaccine is meant for chickenpox. You can't cross vaccines like that and expect it to work. Now, here's how this works, guys. I'm going to try and be really quick with this. Girls, I bet a lot of you, I'm not going to ask for hands, got the Gardasil vaccine. It is meant to protect you against HPV. So that, heaven forbid, in the future, you are actually exposed to HPV. Here's the difference, okay? Let's say that we have girl number 1. She does not get the Gardasil vaccine that prevents HPV. And she, maybe like 2 years later, she actually gets exposed to HPV in the real world. Her immune system is going to go, what's this? What is this? I've never seen this before. I don't know how to fight it. You do not have antibodies for things that you have never been exposed to. Okay? I don't have antibodies for HIV because I've never been exposed to it. That's how they test to see if you have the virus, if you have the antibodies for it. So if you get infected with HPV and you've never gotten vaccinated, your immune system doesn't know what to do. And so the virus can infect you, get into your DNA, and stay with you. And then on the other hand, we have girl number 2. Girl number 2 did get the vaccine. She gets exposed like 2 or 3 years after her shot. And her immune system does this. I know you. I remember this. I know how to fight it. And so you can knock it out before it even gets close to your DNA. That's the idea with vaccines. A vaccine doesn't work if you're already infected. If you already have HPV, the vaccine won't work. If you already have the flu, the vaccine won't work. So this is a preventative measure. It's meant to prevent. I know every December, January, you guys get sick. The plant plague sweeps through this school. I get my flu shot in November. So by the time the plant plague is here, I'm good. All right. The last thing, I don't know if I have time for. Virus versus bacteria. A virus is not alive. Bacteria are alive. What do you use to fight a bacteria? You use antibiotics. Viruses have vaccines, and they are preventative. I'm really trying to just get this before the bell rings, guys, so I'm not having complete thoughts here. If you have the flu, will an antibiotic work? No. Antibiotic means anti-life. Antibiotic against life. Viruses aren't alive. Antibiotics fight bacteria. Vaccines prevent viruses. But once you have a virus, the vaccine doesn't work. Okay. There's certainly more I wanted to get to, but I didn't have time. The bell is going to ring, but that material should help you do very well in your mastering, and you will see the stuff on the test.